Good morning to you, where our viewers from wherever you might be watching us from. My name is Paul Olatbupan. It's a lovely Saturday early this morning, and this is the newspaper review here on Idea TV. I'm not alone today. I'm joined today with.
Hello, I am Chris Jofo here. Welcome to this morning newspaper review. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chris. Okay, quickly we'll move on to the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Starting off from page number 4, where we see Ihao says that Nigeria will be better off without politics of Brendanism. And also we see that Tinubu should overhaul NTA as voice of Africa. Also on page 27, we see here that trotting up to long-term stability as CBN reforms take roots. That's talking about the Nigerian Naira there. Meanwhile, on page 42, we see that foundation to honor Elumelu, New York Archbishop for exemplary leadership. That's on page 42. And on page 2 as well, we see here the story of how Nigerians felicitated with the Muslims yesterday with Tinubu's wife, Sanwo-Olu, Ishola, and others urged for peace and also tolerance as Muslim faithfuls celebrated the Eid el-Malud yesterday. And also on page 2, we see here that closing gender gaps could add about $229 billion to Nigeria's GDP, says the minister. Also on page 3, we see that Chinilag honors Deri with book on leadership, proposed professorial chair endowment. Also on page 43, we see that Nupeng urges federal government to invoke powers of private sector participants in PIA. I guess, and also the big story here. That's on page that's on page 8 and also on page 9, talking about the South. There we can see leaders of the South states here. We see here that an oil-rich region with don't ill of abandoned projects. That's on page 8 and also page 9 of the Guardian this weekend. I guess I really don't know. I probably will just start from the top story here, where we see here that we have in South they have so much of abandoned projects that span over the years, 10 years thereabouts, probably started and not finished. In some cases, it maybe even got commissioned and was not even it wasn't carried out to any point at all. And also the story of how, if we could close gender gaps in Nigeria, I do understand that the United Nations has said that it's going to be a long time, it's going to be a long thing, it's going to be a long-term thing. But however, if we could make gradual progresses as regards closing gender gaps, the minister has mentioned that we could we could add up to about over 200 billion US dollars. So meaning that is a lot of naira actually
to carry out some projects.
Exactly.
Exactly. And if I may come in, you see that the issue of South Niger Delta, with NDDC in place, I think there shouldn't be any project leaving gaps for projects at that area, because more or less they are the maker of Nigeria as today when it comes to economic financing.
Yes.
I think that area should be taken care of. You can see the case of Ogoni water highways and the issue of cleanup in the Ogoni riverine areas. I think they should embark on all these areas to make the people from that region be part of the nation and be happy with the system.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Okay, I guess we'll just move on quickly to the blueprint this morning, blueprint weekend, and let's see what has been said. You see here that real reason deputy governor does not succeed their principal. This is according to an investigation that's on page 8 and also page 9. Also, we see here INEC devolves voters' registration to ward level in FCT, suspends online pre-registration. That's on page 11 of the blueprint weekend this morning. And on page 7, we have the local equity market sheds. That's about 800 billion naira. That's on page 7. Meanwhile, on page 31, we see that South Africa, Rwanda, power pressure as Eagles face Rwanda. That is on page 13, 31. That's as regards the World Cup qualifiers that should be coming up in a couple of days. And also on page 17 down to 20, we see that Igbo language culture divided by dialect, united by tribe. That's a very strong one there. And also on page 11, we see here that army kills 11 terrorists and also nabbed 64 suspects in nationwide operation. I guess I'm one that usually would promote unity, and also I love culture and also embrace diversity. I mean, Nigeria has so much of diversity.
Exactly.
We speak over 300 languages, only in Nigeria, and we just have 36 states, meaning that if I don't understand that it is not all of the states that have several languages, but however, if we were to do like a mass thereabouts, it means that each state should like have about 10 languages, but it's actually not like that, funny enough. Exactly. Yeah, but it's really amazing to see that we are getting to understand the point that fine, we may speak differently, we may have different language, we may have different way of life, exactly, but we should be all united by one common goal. And I mean, that's what we're seeing now with the Igbo culture. I feel like it should also transcend to other cultures, and after other cultures, we all as one again should come together as one and see ourselves as one party, not just subdivisions of several states, basically.
Driven by national interest.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's the basic thing. It's the nation.
Exactly. We should always have the best interest of the nation at heart at every point in time. Okay, I guess we move on now to the Saturday Vanguard. We see on page 7, Peter Obi to Tinubu, your vacation isn't more important than Nigeria's protection duty. That is on page 7. Meanwhile, on page 47, we see that's as regards the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. Osimhen leads Super Eagles attack against Ambavio. Bafana piles more pressure on Nigeria as they eat Lesotho 3-0. That's on page 47. Meanwhile, on page 12, we see here that the gospel of fast money, talking about the story of Yahoo Boys. Also, on page 3, we see here that a battle to unseat Tinubu in national consensus, not a conspiracy. That is what Tamboa is saying. As the writer here says, that backs the president on state policing, and also loud on why it may be difficult to defeat him in 2027. And also on page 41, talking about health, we see here that delayed breakfast links to early deaths for elderly. 30 minutes exercise slashes cancer cell growth. That's on page 41 of the Vanguard this morning. And on page 13, we see here the Bishop Mike Okonkwo, who is celebrating his 80th birthday. That's a very lovely milestone there. And on page 34, simplified port processes key to raising export volumes. That is what Adeniyi is saying. I guess that's the Comptroller General of the Custom there. Also, we see that Custom generates about 3.7 trillion at Apapa Port in just 16 months. And now the big story, because it's Saturday and also meaning that they have to give entertainment the spotlight. We see here that how Afrobeat stars are redefining global music scenes, their lifestyle, money, cars, and in some cases jets. That is what the Vanguard is saying this morning. I would really love to touch on a number of stories on this particular page. I'll start with that of Peter Obi down to Tinubu. I mean, Peter Obi is actually doing what PDP should have done some few years back, being the correct opposition. Exactly. Doing the main thing, always being in the news for things like this.
And I mean, on their toes. That's the idea of
Exactly,
opposition.
but I feel like there are sometimes as well that Peter Obi overdoes it.
Exactly.
But regardless, it's still opposition, and that's how it's being played. Also, we have the story of Super Eagles, which are to play for their World Cup qualifiers in the coming days. I guess they have 2 games left.
Yes.
First with Rwanda, and also with Bafana, which is South Africa. So we'll be expecting now. We'll be expecting now. There are no more excuses, and we're expecting them to give their very best in those matches. And in the story of how young boys today are going into fraudulent activities, all in search of fast money, getting money quick, and all of that. It's really sad to see. I'm not going to lie, because you get some of them making statements like "school na scam." And I mean, it was also in the news yesterday of how people, how even the government also classify entertainment and sports over education as well. And the story of the Apapa Port, which is very lovely. I mean, Apapa Port has always been one that generates so much money. Exactly. But my own question is that how much of that money actually goes back into the economy?
system,
because about 1.3.7 trillion naira is a lot of naira in
money,
new sense.
yes.
So if we can have something like that go back into the system, I do understand that you can also use part of that to also develop the port proceedings rather.
Exactly.
But regardless, if we can have a chunk load of this amount back into the economy, we would be at a better place. And then there's the other advice about delayed breakfast. Like,
Exactly. Yes, they can even see the issue of ports authority. They can even, for me, if you check back from independence, we should have a decentralized port system. It's called most of the port duties goes to neighboring countries. People go there to patronize, go to Cotonou. A lot of what's supposed to come to Nigerian seaport, which is Lagos port, goes to Cotonou. People go for even Mali to go and get their goods cleared. So issue of this, they should decentralize, like you should have a Warri port in place, a Port Harcourt port in place, at least 3 minimum should be in place, so that the goods can come in freely.
Yes.
You understand? So they have inland power system.
And I mean, Apapa Port has so much of congestion when it comes to all of this. It's very congested, and it's always a whole lot of toggle to ensure to get your goods out and all of that, because there is so much. And I guess that's why the government is coming up with the Ogun State Inland Port soon to make things easier. So once the goods land in Apapa, they are being transported down to Ogun State, and then from Ogun State
there's
can get your goods.
Latter terminal port at Ikorodu, just by my house there. There's a latter port, MPA, port over by Dangote. They still bring in lighter because it's just for light ships. Sea goes there. But one Papa is the major for anchoring the major big ships.
Yes.
I think they can make use of all these inland waterway ports that can feed the main port around Lagos there.
Exactly.
Good idea.
I guess that would be a very good idea. Okay, we're going on a short break now. Once we return, we'll continue with what's on the front pages of our newspaper. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back. This is still the newspaper review here on Idea TV. It's a lovely morning, and we are talking about what exactly is going on in our country to see how things are shaping out, and how things are panning out. My name is Paul Oladipo, and also with me here is...
I'm Chris.
We're moving on straight to the Saturday Times. This is what exactly is being said on the front page of the Saturday Times. On page 2, we see that PDP is bigger than Wiki. That is what Plateau ex-governor is saying this morning. Also on page 4, we see that WHO urges Nigeria to allocate about 20% of budget to public health. Meanwhile, on page 12, we see here the wife of Dari At-Alade, Diola Alade, who says that Diola Alade gets real with working with her husband. Also on page 4, we see that federal government diffuses tension around 5% fuel tax, says implementation remain dormant. That's on page 4. And still on page 4, we see that Edo anti-terrorist squad arrests 9 suspects. And on page 5, we see that Nupeng accuses Dangote Dan Tata of monopolizing oil sector, vows showdown. On page 5. And also on page 2, we see that Middle Belt encounters El-Rufai's comment against Southern Kaduna on page 2 of the Saturday Times. Meanwhile, on page 13, we see that Wizkid secure record-breaking pay for Algerian concerts on page 13. And on page 8, we see that Nigeria's agent landlord debates rising costs of rent in Nigeria. That's on page 8 of the Saturday Times this morning. Okay, there was this, I guess, sometimes last month, there was a panel discussion of which had lawyers, which had landlords, and also tenants, and also had the EFCC executive chairman there as well, talking about how cost of living, cost of land, cost of real estate basically are skyrocketing. And what's one of the things that the EFCC boss said was that all of these real estate moguls, all of these agents should actually be very careful with who they collect money from, where they get money from to invest in that real estate, because some of this money have no backing, basically have no obvious traces of where they are from and things like that. So that was also in discourse, and also in that meeting as well, discussion on how to try our best to reduce rent, because again in Lagos the cost of rent is basically up the roof. Like it's and it's usually for those very little apartments you are seeing a very high cost of rent, and it shouldn't be in the real sense.
It's more or less depriving the middle class of having a roof over their heads. It's more or less becoming a national issue. Because even the issue of these estate agents, that most of the money, as we said, can be traced. Most of these people who do scams, do launder money through real estate business. It's not what's happening. So if you want to trace back how they got this money to invest in real estate, it's a major issue. And as to tenants, issue of tenants, agents, landlord debate rising cost of rent in Nigeria. It has become a stage whereby, but in the type of system we are running does not give room, whereby you have to negotiate what you pay as rent. It's either you pay it to dictate of the landlord, or you go and get another place. So it's a system that the government, we don't run a socialist system of government whereby the government takes care of every need of the citizens. So it's a case that. I could remember in the days where, the government fixed at Lagos there. I think that was former military governor, Marwa, had to fix rent. Depending on the area, the part of Lagos where you stay, that determines the amount you pay. So going at the areas, this is a civilian democracy. We are in democracy where there's free choice, but there must be a limitation, because the citizens are the one bearing the brunt for this. Exactly. So that's it.
So, there have been talks over the years about trying to domesticate rent, trying to break down rent into probably weekly cost, monthly cost, and things like that. But I actually do not know how that will pan out to be, because if some landlord might also still use that avenue as well to be landlords and try to, overcharge their houses, be unruly to their tenants and things like that. And, these are things that we're trying to avoid in the real sense. So, but let's see how all of these things.
But at times you don't blame the landlords, because, the cost of building materials has gone up the roof. You can't even assess. Imagine the cost of cement now is 10,000 naira per bag. Then how can you tell people
But
this?
the question isn't about the cost of building the house. Is trying to make your returns in less than
Yeah, I understand.
2 months after you must have built for probably 8 months
Instead of
or
allowing
2 years.
the long-term plan of getting your money
Exactly,
back.
it should be a long-term plan. It shouldn't just be it's a landlord property. So basically,
remains there.
exactly, it remains there. All your investments are there, and you are able to recoup your investments if you have proper plan. So basically, the main issue here is actually the landlords wanting to recoup their
money within the
investment within a very short time. Exactly, they want to immediately they're renting out their flats or their apartment or the block of flats. They want to get their money at that instant, and it's really not like that, because even themselves they didn't get the money to build such apartments at once. Exactly. Only if it was illegal, but if they actually worked for it, obviously they didn't get it in one day.
Something you spread.
Exactly.
It's a lifetime asset.
Exactly.
Not something you recoup your money in a very shortest time.
I mean, beauty projects are very expensive now. There's no doubt. But regardless, it's important that they also trying to understand the pain of the citizens as well.
Yes.
And also, I'll quickly talk about WHO, which has mentioned that also urged Nigeria as well to increase the budget
for health.
So up to 20%. And I mean, it's one that shouldn't be one of those things that we'll be discussing every now and then, because I feel like health is one thing that is actually needed. You cannot at any point in time say that you're not going to that no one is going to go to the hospital or things like that.
Exactly.
It's almost not impossible. But we should try to invest in places that we could, because fine, there are other means to get well and all of that, but regardless, the health system still needs a lot. I mean, I was talking a few days back on this show as well on how Nigeria used to be a place of medical tourism years before now, where people had to travel down to places like UCH, that's
Ibadan.
Yes, at Ibadan.
UBTH, all the major specialist hospitals.
Exactly. And we have teaching hospitals in almost every, in fact, in the southwest alone, I guess there are about 3 or 4 major. In fact, in Lagos alone, there are 2 teaching hospitals.
Yes.
There's Lasut and also Lasut.
Yes.
In Ibadan, there's one. The same thing. In Osun, there's one. I'm not sure of Ogun State.
Let me tell you, even the major state universities now have resulted into having specialist hospitals. In every state, there's a federal government-owned specialist hospital. There's state-owned in every state.
And that's the story of Lagos State, who was the federal, which is Lut, and also the state government, which is Lasut. But you see, if we have all of this, meaning that there's something that is not going on right, and also, even health is not cheap, yes.
It's not cheap.
And also, another thing I will also be looking at as well is insurance or probably subsidies. Especially now, I mean, for those who are asthmatic, I do understand that
what are you talking about?
The
inhaler.
The inhaler.
It's not about
exactly.
More than 15,000.
Exactly. It's very expensive. It's very expensive. Exactly. And it was very cheap and very affordable. And well, it's a whole lot of story actually as regard that of inhaler. But the point is just that the government should try to invest more into health. And also, I mean, I actually kind of wished. I know that Alausa now, when he was in the Minister of Health, he was doing so much.
Yes.
But however, like, is in education. Education also needs that attention as well.
A lot of sectors need attention.
Exactly. But I feel like the current minister as well should actually learn from Alausa, because Alausa is one of those functioning ministers that you literally see him in the news almost every other day. So basically, we want to see more of that in the health sector, more improvements, more research. A lot of it. Like we have I won't say the framework or the infrastructure for it, but we have more like a framework. Let me say a framework. It's a skeleton basically of what can make it work. We just need to invest more in it. Exactly, and just make it work right, and then we'll be good at the end of the day.
Because you can see what the entire world suffered during COVID. A lot of money, because but the countries, the civilized world, were able to have access. Their citizens were able to have access to Medicare during that COVID-19. That's it. Because in major areas, the undeveloped part of the world were the ones that suffered the issue of COVID during that period of, I think, 2019 now. Yes, but you see, because it took a toll on the lot of the world health resources at that time. They really told because they uncovered that many countries could not cope up with the casualties who are victims of COVID, and that then your health system then supposed to match what is on ground as to take care of your citizens who are infected by COVID. So those are the areas you see. If you inject more money or allocate more money into health, it goes. People say a healthy nation, a healthy citizen is a healthy nation. Yes, because if you inject money into health, it goes the way of people who are able to work and the economy will boom. So it goes a lot when it comes to issue of injecting money. And the other areas too, important areas, there are vital areas in the economy that need money. They are all crying for resources. So that's it.
I mean, there's a lot to be said in all of this. And also there's also the story of how, out-of-pocket spending is another thing that needs to be reduced as regards to health. Because in places like the UK, for example, there's insurance that covers everything. And you're basically not spending
much.
a dime basically on health again because of insurance. If we can have something similar like that here in Nigeria, I don't understand that we have the NHI. However, the NHI needs to be. I mentioned it. I guess that was on Tuesday where we discussed about NHI as well. The NHI needs to be reviewed. Needs more. Need more
funding and a lot of
even apart from funding,
reform.
Exactly, it needs some it needs some reforms to reduce the bureaucracy as regards trying to get approval and things like that. But at the very start, is increasing the expenditure of health and also the budget of health by 20%, just as recommended by the WHO. I guess we'll move on now to the Saturday Tribune to see what is being said quickly on page 4. We see here that criminal elements allow opposition leaders to breathe. That is what ADC tells the police and also federal government. Meanwhile, Atiku wants Tinubu against authoritarian drifts. That's, I guess, Atiku has been on a streak as regards the statement. Meanwhile, on page 7, we see here that we used to patrol bank areas to get our targets. Ibadan armed robbery suspect reveals. It goes on to say that we will watch out for anyone carrying polythene bag out of the bank. We usually knew people with money because of the shape of the polythene bag. That's very interesting. And on page 5, we see that Army kills 11 terrorists and also nabs a score of suspects in nationwide operation. Meanwhile, on page 7, we see that 46 suspected bandits have been arrested in Kwara, and CP, that's the Commissioner of Police, says that no Oba in our custody. I guess Tribune has so much of, I call it sad news now. But I guess I'll start with that of this Ibadan story because it's actually very fascinating to me. That by the shape of the polythene bag that are bringing out of the bank, they do understand, okay, this one really collected a large sum of amount, or this one they didn't do that. But it's very interesting to see things like this happen in places like this. But it's good that, is the main point now is for citizens to be more aware when it comes to moving around or also coming out of bank. If you are going to a bank and you know that you'll be carrying the large sum of amounts, you could always carry a bag, either a backpack or another bag as a lady to ensure that you put your money inside so that there's nobody's even able to size of your polythene bag if you have any in your bag. It's really sad because meaning that this, even before they were nabbed, meaning that they must have done it so a number of persons.
Surveillance.
Exactly.
In place.
And it's really it's really sad to see. So usually when things like that happen, when things like this happen, we should always try to keep ourselves at our best. Do you have anything to contribute as regards this?
But you see that even when you are living bank with polythene bags, I think be suspicious of your surrounding, because these people doesn't just come from the blues.
Yes.
See, they hover. So you make sure you suspect every movement around you so that you'll be able to secure yourself while getting out of the bank.
Exactly.
Because they are always there. They don't act without surveillance. Before they even rob a bank or do things, those clients who are leaving the bank, they must hover around that area, take their time and make sure that they get information on who to attack, on who to even swindle. So it's good that people should be conscious of our environment, knowing that the economy is so bad that some people doesn't want to work, but they want to reap.
Exactly.
So that's the situation.
I guess we'll just move on now to our tech news to see what has been on the front page that we got tech. This morning we have a story of an AI firm called Anthropic to pay about a sum of $1.5 billion to settle copyright lawsuits. An AI company, Anthropic, has agreed to pay about $1.5 billion to settle a class action suit from authors who claim that the firm used their work without permission to train their cloud AI chatbots. Also, the settlement pending approval from the U.S. District Judge William would be the largest publicly reported copyright recovery in history. The lawsuit was filed by authors including Andrew Mbert, Charles Gaby, and also Clerk Wallace Johnson. Although Judge William previously ruled that the books used to train AI does not violate U.S. copyright law, he allowed the case to proceed over claims of using pirated materials. Anthropic, backed by Amazon and also Alphabet, said that the settlement resolves legacy claims and underscores its commitment to ethical AI development. Lawyers called the deal precedent setting for compensation creators in AI era. I mean, this is a very, very, very interesting one. I mean, over months now, I guess sometimes since last year, there's been talks as regards ethical use of AI, copyright issues. Are we really copyrighting?
It shows you that no system or technology is proof of being hijacked by those copyright users. You understand? Because if Anthropic is having the same issue of copyright listening, which means that you understand, every system has a loophole. Understand? And that's why you work on the issue of cyber security and the rest. But it shows the system. It shows that when you are doing a sound proof of every system, when it comes to AI and whatever tech, there must be a back space to protect whatever you are producing for the world to consume.
Exactly.
When it comes to AI, yeah.
But I mean, it's a whole big win for the authors. However, I mean, 1.5 billion to share among about three of them. I mean, that is so lovely. That's probably like around, I guess that's around 5 million or thereabouts. That it will be.
It's a huge money.
Exactly, it's 5 billion. That's what each of them will probably be taking. I guess that's all we'll have this morning. I guess it's been a lovely ride so far with you, Mr. Chris, and I guess that's all on today. Till we meet again, we'll come your way again this year in Newspaper Review. My name remains Paul.
And I'm Chris.
Thanks for watching.